Chosen ones, do this and your God protectors will appear instantly. You were never meant to walk this earth alone. That ache in your chest, that overwhelming sense that someone or something is supposed to be standing beside you when no one is, that's not delusion. It's memory. A spiritual memory encoded deep in the soul of every chosen one. Because when you were sent here, you weren't just given a mission. You were also given guardians. But unlike ordinary protectors, these aren't just kind spirits or passive guides whispering affirmations in the dark. No, these are God protectors, beings of unimaginable strength and power built to stand between you and the forces that want your light extinguished. And if they haven't shown up yet, it's not because they don't exist. It's because there's something you haven't done yet. You see, the spiritual realm is exact. It operates on vibration, on alignment, not emotion or desperation. That's why so many chosen ones cry out to heaven and get silence, not because they're unworthy, but because their frequency is not yet the frequency of activation. The God protectors don't move because you're hurting. They move because you've shifted. They're not here to rescue your ego, they're here to defend your purpose. And the only time they appear instantly is when you step into a frequency so rare, so precise, that it signals to the cosmos, I'm ready. I remember. I reclaim the ancient agreement.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
So what is this one thing you have to do? It isn't dramatic. It's not loud. It won't be trending on social media. It's not even visible to the people around you. But it's the most dangerous act a chosen one can perform in a spiritual war zone. You must renounce your dependency on external validation completely and without hesitation. You must sever the last invisible strings that tie your identity to being seen, approved, rescued, or even understood by others. That includes your family, your friends, your romantic interests, your social following, even your mentors. Until you do this, the God protectors stand still. Because to call them is to say to the universe, I choose my divine self, not the false safety of the crowd. Have you ever noticed that the moment you finally let go of needing someone's attention, that's when they suddenly notice you, or that your power seems to spike the second you truly stop waiting for validation? That's not psychological, it's spiritual law. Dependence blocks divine protection. But sovereignty summons it. The minute you shift from needing to being, you trigger the signal. And that signal is older than language. It's written in the energetic code of your soul, and your God protectors have been waiting for lifetimes to hear it again. Now, don't get this twisted. Letting go of external validation is not the same as isolation or arrogance. It's about authority. It's about returning to the throne inside your consciousness and reclaiming the crown you've been taught to fear. Because the truth is, if you're a real chosen one, you've been hunted since birth not by people, but by forces. Entities that feed on your self-doubt, your hesitations, your delay in awakening. And the only way to end that hunting season is to stop giving your power away for scraps of human approval. That's when your God protectors step in. That's when the divine guardians who've been invisible to you suddenly stand like giants in your atmosphere, and the energy around you becomes untouchable. This is why some people miraculously survive things they should never have walked away from. Why some can enter spaces of darkness and remain untouched. Why others sense something ancient and terrifying watching over them and then realize it's not an enemy, but an ally. These are the ones who've done the work, who didn't just cry for help but became help, who didn't wait for someone to protect them, but shifted into the frequency of divine protection. And here's the mind-blowing part. When you reach this place, your protectors don't just shield you, they start fighting for you. Behind the scenes. In dreams, in timelines. They dissolve attacks before they manifest. They block betrayals before they reach you. They close doors that would have destroyed you, even when you begged for them to stay open. But the key is you, your decision, your renunciation of the false self, your complete energetic shift from victim to vessel. Because that's when you become unshakable, not invulnerable but untouchable in purpose. Your aura changes. Your presence disrupts darkness without effort. People feel something when you walk into a room, even if they can't explain it. Animals notice. Children stare. The air shifts. And somewhere beyond the veil, your protectors smile. Because finally, you remembered. So I'll ask you this. What are you still holding on to that keeps you visible to the enemy and invisible to your protectors? Whose approval are you still secretly chasing? What would happen if you dropped it completely? What if this moment, not tomorrow, not after another ritual, but right now is the moment you choose your soul's code over every distraction? Would you be ready to see what stands beside you when you finally do? They were always here, the chilling signs your God protectors already walk among you. Most people think their God protectors will come in a flash of lightning or a chorus of angels. But if you're truly a chosen one, you learn quickly that the most divine arrivals don't make noise. They make shifts. A sudden stillness in the room. A piercing intuition that stops you mid-sentence. A presence that brushes your spirit like wind through the bones, unseen but unmistakable. Your God protectors don't show up when you cry out. They reveal themselves when your spirit silences. They've always been near, cloaked in the shadows of your becoming, watching you trip through illusion after illusion, waiting for that sacred flicker of remembrance to ignite. And the moment it does, you start noticing things that no one else around you even registers. Have you ever walked away from a situation and felt like something had literally pulled you out just before disaster? Like something nudged you, shifted your route, blocked your access? You might have called it luck. But we both know better. That was them. Because they don't interfere with every fall, but they intervene with every fall that threatens your mission. There's a difference. Not every pain is punishment. Some are allowed to carve you, but destruction. That's where they draw the line. And they only let the enemy get close enough to wake up your warrior. Sometimes their presence is felt strongest in the moments of deepest despair. When you've hit rock bottom, when everyone's gone quiet, when prayers feel like echoes in a dead sky, that's when they're closest. Because when the world falls silent, your soul becomes loud. That's the space they inhabit, not the noise of your ego, but the frequency of your truth. And they're not emotional beings, they're ancient intelligences built around one core programming. Your mission must be fulfilled. That's what they guard, not your comfort. Not your relationships, not your convenience, but your completion. Internet. Now here's where it gets strange and powerful. Once your frequency begins to align with theirs, your entire perception starts to shift. You begin to notice when people around you act out of character, hostility out of nowhere, fear in their eyes when they look at you, hesitation like they're seeing something behind you that you can't yet see. That's not paranoia. That's awareness. People are sensing the presence walking with you. The energy you used to beg for is now flowing through you. And to the unawakened, that's terrifying. Not because you become dangerous, but because you become sovereign. And sovereignty is a threat to every spirit that feeds on submission. Pay attention to the people who start to avoid you for no reason, who once manipulated you but now fumble in your presence, who feel off or glitchy when standing near you. That's your aura expanding beyond what they can access. It's not ego, it's energetic territory. And your protectors are claiming space around you, removing those who are not aligned, shielding you from energies that once drained you, enforcing boundaries without a word spoken. They operate silently, but their work is seismic. You'll also begin to feel this strange calm in situations that would have shattered you before. The betrayal still hurts, but it doesn't break you. The failure still stings, but it doesn't define you. Why? Because your protectors are fortifying your inner world. They're not changing the storm outside, they're upgrading your foundation inside. And the paradox is, once you truly stop looking for their arrival, you start living from their presence. That's when the protection becomes embodied. You speak differently. You move with a rhythm that doesn't match this timeline. You carry an authority that wasn't taught, only remembered. Have you ever stood in a place of chaos and felt completely still inside, like a sacred center had formed within you? That's them. That's their energy working through your nervous system, stabilizing your field, filtering interference. They don't always appear as glowing figures or booming voices. Sometimes they come as strength that isn't yours but now moves through you like it's always been. Sometimes they come as clarity in a moment of madness, as impossible courage when everything screams run, as forgiveness when you should be burning with vengeance. Their fingerprints are all over your evolution, but they require one thing: partnership. This is not a savior dynamic. They will not drag you through your destiny. You must walk it. They amplify the path you choose. They strengthen the resolve you claim. And if you turn away from your path, they don't abandon you, but they do go silent. Because the bond is frequency-based, you must live in a truth high enough for them to act within it. That's why your decisions matter more than your declarations. You can speak 1,000 affirmations, but if your actions echo fear, you break the signal. So I ask you now, what would shift if you moved today like someone was already walking beside you? What would you stop tolerating? What would you stop delaying? If you knew there were beings 10,000 times more powerful than any darkness watching over your steps, what kind of authority would you finally walk in? Your God protectors aren't coming. They're waiting for you to arrive. The moment you own your darkness, they unleash their light. There's a secret few dare to whisper, even in spiritual circles. It's this: your God protectors don't just respond to your light. They respond to your willingness to embrace the darkness you were born with. Not to be consumed by it, but to own it. Because chosen ones don't come to earth to be polished statues of perfection. We are forged in chaos. We are tempered by shadow. And if you felt like your protectors have delayed their arrival, maybe it's not because you haven't purified yourself enough. Maybe it's because you're still rejecting the most powerful part of your spiritual DNA, your shadow self. Every chosen one has a side they were taught to fear. The anger, the ambition, the hunger to create, to destroy, to challenge. Society calls it ego. Religion calls it sin. But your God protectors, they see it as fuel, raw potential, the clay of divine force. They do not require you to cut away your fire, they require you to refine it, to master it, because until you accept the parts of yourself you've buried, they cannot fully integrate with you. They don't come to babysit a fragmented being. They come to unify with a soul that's claimed all of itself. Even the pieces that look too wild, too flawed, too untamable, especially those pieces. I think about it, how long have you tried to fix yourself before being worthy of protection? How many spiritual practices, rituals, mantras and cleanses have you gone through, hoping one day you'll finally be clean enough to summon something divine? And yet nothing fully lands. Why? Because the part of you that's been crying for protection is not you. It's the image of you, the version you constructed to survive. But the God protectors aren't here for that version. They're here for the real you, the you that knows pain, rage, grief, lust, power. The you that's been hiding behind spiritual politeness. That's the one they were assigned to. And until that you steps forward, fully integrated, fully seen, they can only circle from afar. Your power isn't born from pretending to be pure. It's born from becoming whole. And wholeness requires you to descend, not just ascend. To enter your own underworld, and make peace with every ghost that screams, "You're not enough." Because in that descent, something ancient awakens. Your God protectors don't wait for perfection. They wait for that moment. The moment you stop trying to kill your shadow and instead shake its hand. The moment you realize your wounds aren't signs of weakness but openings for divine fire to pour through. The moment you see that your trauma wasn't a mistake, it was the training ground. Let me tell you something terrifying and liberating. Some of your deepest pains were allowed to happen. Not because the universe abandoned you, but because it trusted you. Your protectors stood by and let you fall, not out of cruelty, but because they were watching to see if you'd rise with memory, with clarity, with the rarest spiritual trait, self-responsibility. Not in shame, not in guilt, but in power. The moment you say, "Everything that happened to me, I now use," that's when they rise. Not as saviors, but as comrades. Because the chosen one who has accepted their darkness is no longer fragile. They are lethal to the enemy, to fear, to illusion. That's why your aura shifts. That's why synchronicities increase. That's why doors start opening and old energies start fleeing, sometimes violently. Because when your frequency hits that note of total self-ownership, it creates a resonance. And that resonance is ancient. Your protectors are encoded to respond to that exact tone. It's like a key turning in a lock that's existed before your birth. They don't come for the version of you that plays small to fit in. They come for the version that stands alone and still radiates like a sun. The version who doesn't deny their past, but weaponizes it for purpose. So I'll ask you something that might haunt you until you answer it honestly. What part of your shadow have you been trying to exile? That is actually the missing piece of your power. What if the part you've been most ashamed of is the exact part your God protectors need you to embrace before they fully step in? What would happen if you didn't run from that anymore, but welcomed it with reverence? Because maybe the light you've been seeking was hidden in your darkness all along. Your energy is the battlefield, and now you're finally armed. There comes a time in every chosen one's journey when you stop asking for signs and start becoming one. And that's when your God protectors rise not just around you, but through you. You begin to realize that protection was never something that had to show up outside of you. It was always encoded inside your energy, but you needed to activate it. And that activation isn't through begging, pleading, or performing spiritual rituals that drain your soul. It's through alignment. Through energy that is no longer leaking, no longer distracted, no longer trying to serve two masters, truth and comfort. Let's be brutally honest. Many chosen ones stay stuck in limbo because they're still negotiating with their own power. They want protection, but they also want to keep the friendships that drain them. They ask for divine guidance but still seek validation from people who mock their path. They say they're ready to awaken, yet fear being alone more than they fear being false. And the protectors? They do not respond to mixed signals. Your spiritual team isn't confused, they're waiting. Waiting for you to stop sending out contradictory energy that says, "I want to be seen and I want to be safe" in the same breath. You must choose. The day you cut those energetic cords, the invisible agreements you've made with people, thoughts, memories that no longer align, that's when your field clears. That's when your protectors gain access. It's not that they weren't present before, but you had them standing outside your energy instead of stationed within it. They were observers when they could have been warriors. But even divine warriors need permission. And permission, in the spiritual world, doesn't come through words, it comes through vibration. Your vibration is either a call for reinforcements or a surrender to chaos. There's no neutral ground. Have you ever noticed how some people feel immune to spiritual attacks, to betrayal, to manipulation? It's not luck, it's alignment. These are the souls who've made their energy a fortress. They've cleaned house, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally, spiritually. They don't entertain chaos, not because they fear it, but because they respect their mission too much to waste time. And when that kind of clarity hits your field, your protectors don't just guard you, they march with you. You become a mobile sanctuary. Environments change when you walk in. Energies collapse when you speak. That's not magic. That's what happens when you're in full covenant with your cosmic team. But this comes with responsibility. Because once your protectors show up, everything false in your life will be tested. Relationships that were built on ego will crumble. Jobs that served your survival but not your soul will dissolve. Opportunities that once thrilled you may suddenly feel hollow. Why? Because your protectors are not here to maintain your comfort. They're here to protect your assignment. And that assignment may ask you to walk away from things that once defined you. But the reward, it's everything you were born for. Peace that no one can disrupt. Power that no system can steal. And a presence that darkness doesn't challenge, it avoids. So, let me leave you with one final truth. You are not alone. You never were. But to experience the divine guardianship that's always been promised to you, you must become the version of yourself that is no longer distracted by the illusions of this world. You must live, breathe, and walk as if you know deep in your bones that you are protected. Because when you do, the veil lifts, the shadows retreat, and your God protectors step forward, not as myth, but as reality.